Hi, this is a short project that I just need to do to fix the Nautilus because there's a problem with it. And the problem exists with my water pump, the pump that pumps water in and out of the ballast tank. I've made that and I've enclosed it in Perspex and it always leaks. And the reason it always leaks is because it's practically impossible to glue anything to that plastic. So I need to think of another way of doing it. So I'm going to do a quick rebuild of the pump and I'm going to use a different method. I've got two previous videos on building these pumps, so I'm going to mark each one of them and say have a look at this one first, because I'm going to quickly go through with you what the process is. How do you build a pump? How do you make it two-way? How do you build an impeller? Real quick. You want to watch? So the first thing that I've done is I've taken a drill and I've got an O-ring. This is a 3.5mm drill and this O-ring is a very nice, neat fit on there. That's my seal. I've also got this lovely plastic. It's 24mm thick, bought it at the plastic place, just off the shelf. Honestly, I'm using this for everything. It's bloody fantastic. So what I've done is I've cut a chunk of plastic, square, so that I can mount it to the back of the end cap. And the first thing that I've done is I've drilled a drill right through it, about 4mm, right through the centre. I've done that on purpose and I've made sure it's all nicely lined up. The next thing that I've done is to put it on its side and drill a hole here. I think it's about 8mm, and that's going to be the hole. That's going to be the way the water's going to flow. And then I've machined out this section here round in the lathe, and I've managed to true it up to that hole, and you'll see that on the other videos. And this is where my little impeller is going to go. So the next thing to do is that once I've got that done, on the other side I've now machined another hole. So on this side I've got the impeller, but on this side I want to fit the motor. Now the motor has on the front of it a little casing that comes out, so I've had to make that, so I've got a slot there to hold the casing. But then the other thing that I've done is I've machined another little slot to take the O-ring. Let's just look at that quickly. There's that 3.5mm drill, there's the O-ring. That is 6.3mm. That's how big that slot is. But the width is less than the width of the O-ring, so it sits proud. Okay, so let's look at that a bit more closely. That's the area for the boss, for the motor. And in here now I've just got this little extra slot. And this is the tricky one. I've machined it so that this O-ring will sit in there proud, so that when the boss of the motor, and I've actually just put a little washer in here, so that when that pushes up against it, it forces a seal, makes that even a little bit tighter, so that it's a very, very nice fit for the shaft. So the next thing to do is to take some care and then drill the holes which are going to mount the motor onto here. That's how that's going to look. And now comes the new step. I've got here some nice PVC tube. This tube is 32 on the outside, 28 on the inside. Beautiful fit for a 360 motor. And these motors are worth, you know what, $10 or something from your electronic shop. So the next thing to do is to machine this out like that, so that it's a really nice sliding fit for that tube. Okay, so now we've built the object that's going to mount the motor, and that the impeller is going to be mounted into here. So how do we build the impeller? Take a piece of brass, put it in the lathe. This is bigger than it needs to be. Drill it through with a drill that will fit the shaft of the motor. The next thing to do is to turn this down here so that this now becomes, if you remember the size, 3.5 mil. And that is going to be nicely caught by that O-ring when I push it in. Okay? So, once I've done that and I've machined this, the next thing to do is to get a block of plastic again, put that in the lathe, turn down a boss for the impeller, and then bore this out. And this is the tricky bit, because I want that to be an interference fit on here. I want to push this on to the end, onto this end. And once I've done that, I'm going to drill a hole through and put a screw in there. So what that means I'm left with is this nice piece of brass with a hole in it, and then plastic around here. I just get the saw and cut 4 slots in there by hand and use some nice glue and glue in some plastic impeller blades. It's done. The only thing I'll do at the end is just use the grinder to sort of get them all right. Okay, we've got that far. Now the final step is to get some more plastic and build the end cap for the top of the tube. And if you've seen me do this before, you'll know how I do end caps. If you've got a lathe, this is the best way to do it. You get a piece of plastic in your chuck, like that, and the first thing you do is you turn it down so that it's the same as the outside, just for it to look nice. Then you turn down this area here till you've got a really nice sliding fit. You don't want any play in it at all. In fact, it could even be a little bit tight. Then you take your O-ring, and I found an O-ring which would just fit nicely inside there, and I think it was about 127 across. I want about 15% compression, so it's going to mean that my slot that I'm going to put in here is going to be around about 110 deep. So I put 110 deep slot into there, knowing that that is the perfect positioning for the, and then just take off 3 or 4 thou over the whole thing to make it all nice and loose. And then you've got a perfect fit. Cut that off. Done. So this is now the finished product. That's the hole. This comes through here and it just picks it up right at the bottom of the tube. Blows the water in and out. That's the nice little cap that I've made. Everything else is sealed.